Hello, good afternoon. The people of Iraq are voting in the first parliamentary election since the country declared victory over the group that calls itself Islamic State. Security forces are on high alert because militants have threatened attacks on politicians and voters. It's the country's fourth vote since the invasion of 2003, which removed Saddam Hussein from power. As our correspondent Yada Hakim now reports, safety and the economy have dominated the campaign.
Security is tight. Islamic State have threatened these elections, the candidates and polling stations. The authorities are taking no chances. Just 2 years ago, large parts of this country were still part of the Islamic State's caliphate. But across this nation, Iraqis are cautiously optimistic that these polls mark a turning point.
I voted because I wanted change in this country, nothing more. This country has suffered so much, and we hope the good people win, people with ethics and conscience and faith in God.
There is still a lot of anger towards the authorities in Baghdad.
We want the entire situation in Iraq to be changed. We want new schools to be built. We want jobs. There's nothing right now. In 80 years, I haven't seen anything change.
24 hours before the election, airports and borders were closed. They've now reopened. Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has based his entire campaign on the defeat of the Islamic State. He's now desperately trying to bring the Sunni minority groups back into the political process. The divisions that have ravaged Iraq for the past 15 years are showing signs of easing. Iraqis are tired of the fighting and now want to bring change through the ballot box. The hope is this election will bring a new era of stability.
And Yada is in Baghdad for us now. Yada, it's obviously important for Iraqis that they can hold an election successfully countrywide, but could it have an impact on the wider region and its political balance?
Sean, however flawed it might be here in Iraq, it is now effectively one of the few democracies here across the Middle East. So its security and stability is crucial and will have a direct impact on the rest of the region, especially because of ongoing concerns that the United States and Iran could be on the path to war. And of course, both of these countries have had a huge influence and impact on the politics and stability of this country for the past 15 years. Now, Iran and the United States had found a common enemy in the Islamic State, and they had worked together to defeat them. Shia militia were working alongside US forces in large parts of the north of this country. Now, though, that relationship is being tested. So whoever is the next leader of this country will have the difficult balancing act of trying to work out good relations between the US and Iran.
Yada Hakim in Baghdad, thanks very much. British workers have experienced the longest squeeze on real wages in 200 years, that's according to the TUC. It's staging a march through central London calling for a higher minimum wage, a ban on zero-hours contracts and more funding for public services. The government says inflation is falling and that unemployment is at a 40-year low. Here's our business correspondent, Joe Lynham.
They've come in their thousands, nurses, teachers, welders and firefighters, all calling for a new deal for workers and the public service. The Trades Union Congress says we're living through the worst erosion in our spending power since the 1800s.
What it shows is that if we carry on at this same rate of pay increases, it will take till 2025 to get back to the real wages people had before the crash. That's 17 years and just too long.
Using official data, the TUC found that real wages, which takes account of inflation, went up by 27% in the decade before the financial crisis in 2008. But in the last 10 years, they have fallen by 4%. It says that the average worker will have lost around £18,500 in real earnings by 2025. But according to one key economist, productivity and not austerity is the main cause for stagnating real wages.
The key issue here is that the economy hasn't grown, and the economy hasn't grown because productivity hasn't grown. That means the amount we produce with each hour we work is basically the same now as it was in 2008. And if we're not producing any more, we're not in the end going to be able to earn any more.
In a statement, the government said our new higher living wage has boosted pay for the lowest earners by £2,000 already, We are cutting taxes and making sure people have the skills they need to secure high-quality, well-paid jobs.
Real wages, or spending power after we've been paid, are going up. Just unemployment is at a 40-year low, but for many people they may not feel that much better off. And for the people on this march, they're calling for more secure, better paid jobs. Joe Lynham, BBC News at the TUC March in central London.
The Foreign Office says it's supporting the families of 2 British nationals who were kidnapped in a national park in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The tourists were abducted yesterday in the Virunga National Park, which runs along the border with Uganda and Rwanda, while a ranger accompanying them was killed in the attack. While our reporter Louise Douast is in the capital Kinshasa now. Louise, what more do we know about this incident?
We have just been told by an army spokesman in the province of North Kivu, where the attack happened, that they are conducting searches in the park, that the hostages are still being held captive. The attack happened just north of Goma, a town in North Kivu, in this World Heritage site that is known for its mountain gorillas. But there are many armed groups operating in and around the park, and there has been kidnappings there before, and actually the number of kidnappings has been increasing in recent years, and some human rights groups estimate that about 50% of those kidnappings are for ransom. We have not heard yet any confirmation on any ransom demand with these 2 missing tourists, but it's something that we will be monitoring. And conflict in the region is rife, and there are about 70 different groups operating in eastern Congo alone.
Louise Douast in Kinshasa, thanks very much. Italy's former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has won a court battle and overturned a ban that had prevented him from holding public office. The 81-year-old, who'd been barred from serving until next year after being found guilty of tax fraud, could now stand in fresh election if fresh elections are called. Leaders of the right-wing The League Party are locked in talks with the anti-establishment Five Star Party. They're attempting to form a new government. 43 countries take part. It costs around £18 million to stage, and globally 200 million people are set to watch it. It's the Eurovision Song Contest. The final takes place tonight in Lisbon in Portugal. Increasingly, it's about more than just the music, with spectacular, often high-tech performances. The bookies' favourites this year so far are Cyprus and Israel. Now let's find out what sporting action awaits us this afternoon. Here's Mike Bushell at the BBC Sports Centre. Good afternoon to you, Mike.
Yes, hi.
Mike Bushell, thanks very much. You can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel throughout the afternoon. The next news on BBC One is at 10 to 7. Bye for now.